Hello and welcome to People Making Money. I'm your host, Kevin Bemmel, and we're here every Wednesday at 10 a.m. Pacific time to talk about a whole broad range of matters relating to business and professional success, as well as wealth building. So today I called this episode Build Routines for Success. And I think this is true not only for our business and professional lives, but for our lives in general. So for us to consciously always be thinking about, okay, what do I need to do in order to live the life I want to live? That's a very exhausting way to go through life. And so we need to think about what are the behaviors, what are the tasks that I need to do, want to do on a whatever it is, a daily basis, an hourly basis, in order to live my definition of success. And so creating routines, which in it's a synonym really for habits, is the way to do this. So I'll give you an example. Each morning, I have this same document that you see back here, posted on the mirror in my bathroom, and I read one of the three parts each day, and I go through it twice a week, basically. And in the beginning, I had to be very intentional about remembering to read it, even though it's right there on the mirror, because I'm brushing my teeth or whatever I'm doing, and I'm not focused on making sure that I read it. And what it is it's my statement of identity and affirmations, so that I can each morning focus on who do I want to be, what do I want to accomplish, what undergirds my philosophy of success. Okay, those are the three parts you see there. And excuse me. So I made it a point to do it, and now I've been doing it for so long that it's just a habit to do it. Okay, so we need to figure out, how do we create habits that will support our success? And the best book I know of on that subject is a book called The Power of Habit by Charles Duhigg. So the book was written in 2012. So it's been around for over 10 years now. And you can see I've got it, marked here, and I've got different different aspects sort of bookmarked and such, so you can see how I like the book. And it's the best resource I know of for figuring out how to create these routines. So I'm just going to take a few minutes to go through some of the main points of the book, so you can just get a little bit of a feeling for it. But this is not a substitute at all for reading the book. I can't encourage you enough to get a copy, read it, review it, and make it a well-loved piece of advice for your life. I will, by the way, put a link to the book in the show notes, as I always do when I talk about a book. And as always, it will be an affiliate link. So, if you do buy the book, I think I get like 5 cents or whatever it is. But again, Charles Duhigg's book is superb, and I can't recommend it highly enough. So the first thing he talks about is something called the habit loop, which is essentially how you create a habit. And the habit loop has 3 steps. There's the cue, the routine, and the reward. So the cue is something that triggers you doing the behavior. So I'll take the habit I mentioned a minute ago about reading, this document back here. So the cue is brushing my teeth. Okay, it's at that time that I have to, because I brush my teeth for 2 minutes, and I have, first of all, I want to to not skimp on the time I take brushing my teeth, and it's boring brushing my teeth. So I paired that with, reading this set of ideals. Okay, so that's the cue. The routine, there's actually two routines. One is brushing my teeth, and I have an electric toothbrush that stays on for 2 minutes, divided into 30-second segments. So I can do, top right, top left. Sorry, right side outside, left side outside, right side inside, left side inside for 30 seconds each. And so that routine and the reading, that's the routine. And the reward is, number one, I've properly brushed my teeth. Okay. And number two is I've prepared myself for the day, reminding myself of who I want to be, what kind of person, what am I seeking to accomplish, and what are some of my key philosophical statements, affirmations that that I live by in order to achieve success, right? So that's the cue, routine, reward cycle, or as Charles Duhigg calls it, the habit loop. And that's what creates a habit. That's what creates a routine. Okay. Now, not all habits are created equal. So Duhigg talks about something called keystone habits. So a keystone habit is a habit that has ripple effects. Okay. So one of my keystone habits, and I know I'm not talking specifically in a business, in a business situation. I'm talking a little more broadly because I think in the case of habits, what we do supports our success, both professional and otherwise. So one of my keystone habits is the habit of exercising. Okay. And I have it actually scheduled into my calendar 6 days a week. Okay, so Saturday is the Sabbath, and I, that's in theory my day off. In practice, I do take a walk on the Sabbath, and I'm actually working on establishing that habit. Actually, I take that back. I have it scheduled in my calendar 5 days a week. So what is the cue? The cue is my calendar tells me it's time to exercise. What's the routine? It's either doing my cardio, rapid walking, or working out with my trainer. And what's the reward? Well, there's a number of rewards. Number one is the benefit that comes from exercising, both the physical benefits, but also the mental and emotional benefits. It helps me clear my head. It gives me time to work through any particular problem. If I'm feeling particularly angry or anxious about something, it gives me the opportunity to blow off steam. All of those are the reward for the habit that I've developed of exercising. And just to digress for a moment, I think if you asked most people who know me well, they would tell you, oh yeah, Kevin loves to run, he loves to exercise. I don't. I really don't. I was having this conversation with someone I know at my bank yesterday, and we were talking about it. I said, I do not. I would rather sit at home and eat ice cream and bonbons, literally, than exercise. So I have to have a routine. I have to build exercise as a habit in order to do it. But it's a keystone habit because the fact that I exercise also then has caused me to build other habits. One of them is certain dietary habits. So I eat primarily fruits and vegetables, and non-animal proteins, except fish and non-animal proteins, I guess is the best way to put it, and high fiber carbohydrates, I guess, is the best way to describe them. So, why how is that an outgrowth of the exercising? Well, because I exercise, if I eat a different diet, for example, if I were to eat a diet heavy in animal protein and meat, I feel very sluggish, and it makes it harder for me to exercise. Okay, so um, I'm not anti eating meat at all. But what I find is it's hard on my body to do so. Now that may be because I almost never eat it. I don't know, but um, because I have the habit of exercising, and it's in essence forced me into certain dietary habits in order to be able to exercise more effectively. Okay, so that's what when he talks about a keystone habit, it's a habit that then impacts your life more broadly. Okay, the golden rule of habit change is the next aspect of his book, and in um, if you want to change a habit, okay, you can't eliminate the cue or the reward. But what you can do is you can alter the routine. So let's say you have a negative habit. Okay, so let's say that you have a habit after dinner of sitting in front of the television. Your day is done. You've eaten dinner. Maybe you've done the dishes. Right? It's not time to go to bed yet, and so you have this downtime. And your habit is to sit in front of the TV and eat a pint of Haagen-Dazs. Okay, I'll choose that one because many years ago that was my habit. So can't change the cue, okay, because you're going to finish dinner and have downtime between finishing dinner and going to bed. Okay, um, the reward is difficult to change as well. So the reward may be that this is your time to relax. So what you need to do to change that bad habit of being sedentary and eating Haagen-Dazs is perhaps change what you're doing. So find a different way to relax that doesn't allow you to eat at the same time. Okay. So maybe, and this is something I'm experimenting with. Not that I eat a pint of Haagen-Dazs anymore, but I in the evenings I tend to basically sit down in my bed and watch kind of a mindless TV show, which it's relaxing, but it's not particularly beneficial to me. So I've got a number of DVD programs last year from a company called The Great Courses, and what I'm working on now is developing the habit of um, of working on these classes instead of watching whatever it is I watch in the evenings, Hogan's Heroes. Although as those of you who watch Jiggers' Place know, I dearly love the show Hogan's Heroes. Okay, but I can't change the cue, which is I'm done with dinner, but don't want to be going to bed at 7 or 8 o'clock at night. My bedtime is 9 o'clock, 9:30. So I need something, but I don't want to go out and exercise because then I won't be able to sleep. So I want to start to power down, but I feel like I'm watching old TV shows. While I like it, it's not very productive. Number one. The other thing I sometimes do is I end up playing these sort of word games on my phone, which again it's not very productive. And so I'm working to develop a different routine that has the same trigger and has in some ways would have a greater reward because I would feel better if I were doing something more useful with that downtime. Okay, so that's the golden rule of habit changes: is keep the cue, keep the reward, but create a different routine in between to get rid of a bad habit, replace it with a good habit, or at least a better habit. Okay, all right. Next is belief and support systems. So if you want to change your habits, if you want to create more routines that will better support your success, you do need to believe that you can change. Okay. Now, this is difficult because many of us, we may say, oh yeah, I can change, but actually we don't believe that. We believe that our habits are destiny and we have no ability really to change them. So I know someone who is a Mensa member, and yet this person has the belief that she's not good at mathematics. It's like, how can you be a genius, which is what a member of Mensa is, but not be able to learn mathematics and know it well? Those are incompatible beliefs. Okay. And worse, she's passed that belief on to her child. So this is someone whose beliefs and support systems are working counter to what would be best for her. And while not being good at math, you could argue, okay, but that may not have a very big negative impact on her life. That's true. However, in it plays out more negatively in other areas of her life. So the incompatible belief system and ability, if you will, of math, that's somewhat benign. But the other ways it affects her life are much more detrimental, and especially when it comes to her health, both her mental and her physical health. So and this is a problem for all of us. So if we want to change our habits and build good routines, the first thing we may need to do is examine our belief systems and see, do we really believe we can change? Because if we don't, we'll end up what's the word I'm looking for? Sabotaging ourselves. And the problem too is, each time we change and are unsuccessful, it tends to reinforce the belief that we can't change. Okay. So while I've mentioned it as the fourth thing, just because of the way I wrote the summary, the reality is we need to examine our belief systems to see where they may be blocking us from our definition of success. Okay. Now, one of two things is going to have to give way. Either we're going to have to change our belief system, or we're going to have to change our definition of success. To the extent that the two are incompatible, they're going to keep going bang. They're just going to be bouncing off each other. Okay. They need to be compatible so they're locking together. Okay. So how do you do that? Well, examine, let's say you want to create some better habits. So examine previous times when you've tried to change them. What has gotten in your way? And be as, honest as you possibly can be. And as well, talk to a couple of close friends and say, and basically ask them, say, look, I don't want you to beat me up, but I want to understand this aspect of myself. How do you see it? As someone who knows me well, but is not me and can be more objective than I can be about myself, what do you see? Okay. By the way, this is a great exercise in knowing exactly how close a friend you have. Right. It takes a very close friend to take the risk of answering that question. Okay. So if you have friends that won't answer it, it doesn't mean they're not friends. It's just they don't feel secure enough in your, they may not, I don't want to say don't, they may not feel secure enough in your relationship to tell you something that may reflect negatively on you. Okay. And so you may need to work on building that friendship to a closer one, that relationship, make it a closer relationship before you'll be able to get the kind of candid feedback that you need. Okay, next is you may need to develop willpower. And this is, now, interestingly enough, this is something that I used to say before I read Charles Duhigg's book, and that is willpower is like a muscle. So you've heard me talk about faith. Faith too is like a muscle. So if we want to have faith at crucial times in our lives, we need to work on building up our faith muscle so that it's there when we need it most. Okay, same with willpower. So willpower, the more we work on developing it, the stronger we get. Just like the more we lift weights, the stronger we get. Now, here's the key. Abstention is not really willpower, okay? Any more than indulgence is willpower. So for example, let's say that that you you don't drink enough water during the day. Drinking an unlimited amount of water is that is not correcting that deficiency, okay, any more than starving yourself of water is. So willpower is the ability to establish a limit and then adhere to that limit. Okay, so let's take a negative habit. Okay, and let's say you have an addiction to Coca-Cola. Okay, which I can totally understand, by the way, because I love Coca-Cola. Okay, this is not a slam on Coke. It's one of my favorite things to drink. Okay, I almost never drink it anymore. Okay, so I went from a time in my life when I would go through 2 liters of Coca-Cola in sometimes 2 or 3 days, okay, to now where I have one maybe once in a while as a treat. Okay, I didn't do it cold turkey. Okay, what I did is I weaned myself off it. I built my willpower up. The problem with going cold turkey is if you will oftentimes experience a trigger that will take you right back to your old habit. Okay, so again, just like we were talking about the habit loop, cue, routine, reward, and we talked about the golden rule of change, what you have to change is the routine. Okay, to build willpower, you do so by gradually changing the routine. So I started out, whereas I might go to the store and buy 2-liter bottles of Coke a week. Okay, the first thing I did was I only bought one a week, and that had to last me for the whole week. Okay, now in the beginning it only lasted me and for 2 or 3 days because I was so used to drinking so much of it. And over time, I was able to stretch out 1 2-liter bottle over the week. Okay. And then what I did is I started buying 1 liter every other week. Okay. Because it was easier for me to control the amount of Coca-Cola that I had available than it was to just like have it there and have it tempting me. Okay. So by gradually changing the amount of Coke I drank on a daily basis, or sometimes I would skip a day in order to make sure it could last me for 2 weeks. Right? I ratcheted down the amount of Coke I drank, and I built up my willpower. It finally got to the point where, at the end of 2 weeks, I still had some Coke left in the bottle. And it had gone flat. Okay, and it was at that part. So then I tried backing off that. So I tried buying I went back to buying a liter a week. And what I noticed was I just wasn't that particularly interested in drinking it. Or it wasn't that I wasn't interested in drinking it. It wasn't the first thing I reached for. I started reaching for water instead of Coke. Okay, and so the bottle would stay in there, and sometimes it would stay unopened for 2 or 3 weeks, and then okay, then I would open it up. I might have a glass with whatever, and blah, blah, blah. So build up willpower gradually in the same way that you build a muscle, right? The first time you go into the gym, you're not going to lift up 50-pound barbells. Okay, unless you're already very, very strong. You're going to start out with maybe 6 or 8 pound barbells and then work up to 10, 12, 15, 20. Okay, that's how you build willpower as well. Okay, excuse me. Now, next is develop small wins. Okay, and this is particularly important if you're working to develop better financial habits. Okay, so if you have the bad habit of spending a lot of money, the best thing to do, rather than again just trying to stop cold turkey, which leaves you vulnerable to a trigger that relapses you to your old habit, is find a small way to alter your spending habits first and take that small win. Okay, and celebrate that small win. So maybe you're in the habit of buying new clothes every day. Okay, so a small win would be skipping a day, perhaps. Okay, and if you skip a day of buying clothing, maybe you I don't know. If you like ice cream, maybe you get an extra scoop of ice cream or something like that. You give yourself an extra reward. But go for small wins. Build small wins. Okay, it's similar to what I was saying about how you build willpower. Go for small wins first. So let's say you're addicted to debt. Okay, one of the mistakes people wanting to get out of debt typically make is they think, I've got to pay off the largest debt first, because if I can pay off that big debt, then I'll feel much more relieved. It's actually the opposite. Even if your smallest debt is also the lowest interest rate debt that you have, you're much better off paying off the smallest debt first. Okay, that gives you a small win and you can build on that win. And so it's better really to pay off your debts smallest to largest. Okay, because you'll get more wins along the way that will give you momentum, so that by the time you get to that largest debt, you've had enough momentum that will carry you through and give you the willpower to conquer that large debt. Okay, so to create the habit of better fiscal prudence, shall we say, right? Take small wins. That's what you want to do. Okay, so there's a lot of other great stuff in Charles Duhigg's book. Okay, and that's why I recommend you get a copy and read it, mark it up the way I did. So, but the key, going back now to the theme of this episode, building routines for success. So, what are the key then is to figure out what is success from my perspective. Until you know what that is, you can't build routines or habits that will undergird it. Okay, and if you go to my YouTube channel, I have, I think, at least a couple of episodes on how to build routine, or how to figure out what success means to you. Okay, and by the way, if you would like it, I wrote a book a number of years ago called "The 8 Deadly Sins of Job Hunting." It was when I was coaching military people to get their first post-military job. So the first part of that book is really helping them figure out, what does success mean to me. So if you'd like a PDF copy of my book, send me an email. My email address will be in the show notes after this episode posts, and I'll be happy to send you a link at which you can download a free PDF copy of my book. So if you're struggling with even understanding, well, what do I think success is? Okay, that's your first step. What is success? And then once you know what success looks like for you, you can start building routines that will support that definition. So, for example, if part of your definition of success is to be healthy physically, okay, or maybe it's to be an athlete, okay, not necessarily a world class athlete, but someone who can engage in physical activity, and not be, ashamed of ourselves, right? Okay, so then you can build routines that will support that aspect of your definition of success. And those are going to revolve around sleep, diet, and exercise. Okay. So, one of the most important habits we can create, no matter what our definition of success is, are good sleep habits, what's called good sleep hygiene. Okay. And my friend Dr. Michael Bruce, the sleep doctor, and I'll put I'll put the URL to his website also in the show notes. He talks about what good sleep hygiene looks like, and for example, it's having very dark room. Having a low temperature, which signals to your body that it's time to rest. Having it very quiet, or having white noise. Okay, shouldn't have a television in your room. Okay, I've kind of backtracked on this habit recently because I've been having some sleep problems and I need something to distract myself. Um, so building a good routine around going to bed at the same time, waking up at the same time, critical to getting good sleep. And there are lots of other things. Okay, so you can build routines around sleep that will help you sleep better, and that will support your ideal of success that includes being physically fit or being an athlete or however you describe that to yourself. That's an example. Okay. Another If you want to be successful in your business, okay, so one of the habits you're going to need to create is to routinely be reaching out to potential new clients or customers. Okay, and so this is something that I'm working on right now, because I was doing it the end of last year, and then I kind of sloughed off on it, and so now I'm rebuilding this habit. How am I building it? I'm building it by putting time in my calendar, blocked out. Okay. Nothing else can get scheduled during that activity, so that I do it basically every weekday. Okay. And what is the cue? It's that my calendar pings me to say it's time to do your marketing work. What is the routine? It's doing my LinkedIn marketing, and again, for those of you who are interested in that, I've done a show on that. Just look it up on my YouTube channel. And what is the reward? Well, the reward is more business, right? So this is a particular habit that, again, if you want professional success, and if you're watching people making money, presumably you do. So this is a habit that we all need to work on and build. It's a routine we need to have for success. Okay, so these are the kinds of things that you want to think about as you flush out your image of success. What things can I routinize that will be more likely to bring it about, rather than handle things haphazardly, or count on luck, or bracha. That's Hebrew for blessing. It's fine to hope that God blesses you. My experience is that God is more likely to bless me when I get out there and do the hard work that shows him that I truly do seek his blessing. So use Charles Duhigg's book again, The Power of Habit. Okay, what we do, or why we do what we do in life and business. That's the subtitle of the book. Okay, use Charles Duhigg's book to build the habits, build the routines that will help you get ever closer to your definition of success. Okay. All right. So that's our show for today. This is also the last show for this week. So I thank you very much for joining me today. Next week on Monday at 10 a.m. is my show, Trusts and Estates Weekly. My guest is Jacqueline Yu. Jacqueline is a trust and estate attorney, and she's going to talk about complex and advanced issues in trust and estate matters. I'm really looking forward to speaking to Jacqueline. Can't encourage you highly enough to tune in. Again, 10 a.m. Pacific time on Monday. And then on Tuesday at 10 a.m., is business lessons from the military. And I don't recall what my I don't recall what my topic is, but we'll have one there. And then on Wednesday, a week from today, is I'm having my guest. I'm having another guest, David Daly, and he's going to be talking about flying with your feet on the ground. So David is a drone pilot, and he has built a business as a drone pilot. He's a Marine Corps veteran. And so looking forward to having David on the show. I think you will find what he's doing to be fascinating. He is really at the cutting edge of technology. This kind of aligns with my show yesterday when I was talking about how to integrate technological change into your business. This is a military. I used a military example to show why that's necessary and how to do it most effectively. And David Daly is going to be a living example of that. So that's next week, Wednesday at 10 a.m. And then next week on Thursday at 5 p.m. is my every other week show, Jiggers' Place. And this is a time for us as we head toward the end of the week to relax, have a cocktail, and talk about all those things that have nothing to do with business and professional success. And my topic is going to be what I call the existential question, faith versus reason. And it's something I've thought a lot about, and I'm looking forward to sharing a few thoughts with you on that subject while we enjoy a cocktail. So that's Thursday at 5 p.m. Pacific time. That's in the afternoon or evening if you're on the East Coast. So again, thank you so much for joining me today. Really appreciate it when you tune in. Wishing you both a wonderful rest of the day and rest of the week. And signing off as I always do. Marie, darling, you are my belle. Courage at all times, my friends.